Hi, Frank Thacker here, and welcome to the Daily Peacemaker. I want to talk a little bit more today about the culture of peace that we've been talking about. And it's really, the culture is really the world we live in. And in simple terms, there seems to be two main cultures going on worldwide. One is the culture of us versus them, and the other culture is us. And so when we talk about a culture of peace, we're talking about a paradigm shift from this us versus them to one of just us. And don't you love that word, paradigm? When I, a little aside, when I first ran into it, I said, wow, what a great word. And I started to use it some. And I have trouble in general mispronouncing words. So I started talking about a paradigm shift, or a paradigm, or a paradigm shift. And people would look at me like, what's this guy talking about? And I would think, oh, they don't understand what that means. And then I would explain it to them. And they say, oh, you mean a paradigm shift? Oh, okay. So, and I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. But anyway, so it's a shift from us versus them to us. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about creating a culture of peace. And yes, those are very broad terms, and they have many manifestations. I used this book last time a little bit, and let me, I tried to get a real good picture of it on the camera, but it's the Cory and the Seventh Story. And it has a really good, for my opinion, sort of description of the possible ways us versus them gets manifested, and descriptions of what can happen or what does happen when we come out of the us culture. So in the us versus them, there is the power to dominate, the story of striking back with fury, the story of running to find a safe place. It's kind of like get away from them. The story pointing to others to shame them and disgrace them. We're much better than them. Look at what they do. They're worthless, and those types of things. The other is a little bit harder to understand, but it's getting stuck in our own victimhood. Poor me. The world has treated me terribly, and there's nothing I can do about it. And then the other is material, and this is a big one in our culture too. The more material goods you have, the better you are, pure and simple. Excuse me. And then on the other side, with the culture of us, the seventh story is what it's called in here, and they describe it as working for fairness in all that we do, refusing to strike back when others strike you, facing our problems rather than trying to run and hide or blame someone else for them, not letting differences make us divide. So it's not my church is better than your church or those types of things. Turning our pain into compassion for others, and of not wanting more material goods than other people. And so in the both of those cultures are rooted somewhat in the science, and in the us versus them, it sort of comes out of the science of the world is a random collection of things and objects. There's no direction to the world. We're pretty much alone in the world. Yes, we can join up with some groups that are like us, but then there's those other groups. There's the them over there. And so we kind of get stuck in that, and that causes a lot of divisions. And there's no connectedness between anything, really. We're all sort of individual beings, objects floating around in the universe. Then on the other side is the us. And first of all, I would say almost all of the wisdom traditions, the religious traditions, if you will, have in them somewhere the notion of the oneness. We're all part of one great big whole. And it may get expressed in different ways in different religious or wisdom traditions, as they're often called, but they're all kind of saying the same thing. And the other thing that's going on is that the science is changing so much, where you have quantum physics, you have the notion of the survival of the fittest, where as people dig deeper into what Darwin was really saying, the survival of the fittest is not the strong and the mighty and that type of thing, but it's the fittest are the ones that can, for lack of better words, or maybe they're good words, fit into, live in harmony with other people, with the planet, with everything that's happening around them. We are connected, quantum physics is showing that from a scientific base, in that, and I mentioned this before, if you take a particle and split it and send this one over there and that one over there really far apart, and you do something to this, the same thing will happen to the other particle. And also when you do scientific experiments, you're seeing that the observer, or the one doing the experiment, affects what happens in that experiment. And then with humans, and again, I touched upon this a little bit. If you have a group here meditating for a particular intention for another group here that doesn't even know that they exist, maybe, the effect that it can have on that. So those types of things. There's a whole thing with that's been going on now for years, really, on heart. So the heart has the same neurotransmitters as the brain, and so if you are feeling some joy in your heart, you can see they can measure the changes in the brain, and also, when you do they have machines now that when you do a EKG, an electrical cardiogram, that usually when you go to the doctor's office, they put all those sticky things on you, and the machine prints out a rhythm. But they can do that, I think I read one place, up to 15 feet away. They have the machine there with no attachments, and it can pick up your heart rate, your heartbeat. And so there's an energy exchange going on. And when you hug someone, how good that feels. Besides the physical contact, there's an energy exchange going on, positive energy. So we really are interconnected in so many ways. And so we've got the faith traditions that are wisdom traditions that have been saying that for centuries, and now the science are saying, wow, there's really something to this. So there's that shift going on. We've got a long way to go to get to where the vast majority of people are living out of that reality of us. And at the same time, when I say that, there's just so much stuff going on about that. There's this book called A New Republic of the Heart, and the back, he's got about 20 pages of resources of groups, organizations, community groups that are coming out of this notion of we're all in this together, working together, and that's a really good book. And then also this other one, the Third Harmony, which also has a lot of the same stuff. Really good, and it's that harmony book, Third Harmony, comes out of the Meta Center, and they just have put out this wild game. It's called, what is it? The Cosmic Peace Force, and it's a game where the participants, the people that play, have to work together to get to the goal. So it's not about me beating you, but it's like if we don't work together, we're not going to achieve the end result of which the game was made for. So, and there's other stuff like that, other games around that are built more on the notion of cooperation than competition. And that's a big part of the one culture, us against them, is a lot of competition. And competition can have some good aspects to it, but usually it's about I'm going to beat you, and therefore that makes me better than you. And over on the us culture, the notion of cooperation. There's other stuff going on too about, people feel that human nature is by nature violent and sort of prone to evil. And again, science is showing that that's not true. When we do something with cooperation, the systems in our brain lighten up in certain areas and give rise to a good feeling. And I've always found it interesting where there was a video, it might have been more than one, where there was an accident, and the person somehow was trapped under the car, and people came by, and from all places, they're driving and they see what happens, and they jump out to go over and see what's going on, and eventually they have enough there that they can lift the car up and someone helps the person out. But when they went over there, these different people from all walks of life, they didn't say, well, let's see his license and see, if he's Hispanic or Muslim or whatever, and what color is he, there was none of that. It was just a spontaneous feeling of wanting to help this person, and I believe anyway, that it's rooted in the fact that we're really driven by wanting to do good. So there's that. So the culture of peace that we're trying to build is really about us, and there's two aspects I want to mention just in passing, and probably next time look at them more. One is a culture of peace does not mean that there's no conflict. It's not like dancing in the daisies and type of stuff. There will be conflict, and probably a better word is disagreement. So that, but the issue is those disagreements will be solved non-violently. And the other notion is the unity aspect does not mean that we will all be the same. Actually, there's this phrase unity, which probably many of you have heard, unity and diversity, which is really I find fascinating. And so I'm going to end there. So what we're about is moving from the culture of us, them, to a culture of us. And maybe next time I'll talk about a little bit more about the notion of conflict or disagreement in the context of this culture of us, and also this whole notion of of unity and diversity. So, as always, thank you for your time. I hope things go well. Appreciate you showing up. And some of the books I mentioned that on the website, the dailypeacemaker.com, it's just dailypeacemaker.com, one word. There's a resource page that we're developing, and there'll be websites to go to, and also some books to that you might find helpful in that. So when you get a chance, check that out. And again, thank you for your time, and it's always a pleasure to be with you, and you all take care.